If you haven't seen this episode, you may want to Alon's ear away because I'm going to go deep dive on this, my friends. I'm going to deep dive because there's a lot of things to talk about. So go and watch this episode. Go watch the episode and come back and hear my thoughts. So season 2, episode 8, titled "The Reality War." Now this episode I found to be a really good spectacle episode. I mean, like out of the final Doctor stories, I would prefer Time the Doctor more. I would prefer Parting on the Ways and End of Time and stuff that has maybe a little bit more of an emotional hook. I mean, the last 30 minutes definitely have an emotional hook, but when it comes to like the thing about it, even in Parting on the Ways and they're trying to do it with this episode with Poppy, where Belinda's like, I'm not leaving my child. I'm not leaving my child. I get they're trying to give that sort of emotional hook, but it's not. It doesn't feel quite the same. But with Parting the Ways, you have the scene with Woe's, the Ninth Doctor saying goodbye to Rose. You got that emotional moment. You got the scene where Wilf is talking to Ten and talking about how Wilfred thinks the Doctor is the most wonderful person he has ever met, and he hands his gun, his World War II gun, and says, you need to kill the Master. You need to kill the Master. You need to kill the Master. He's like, I just can't. There's even in during the reason that 10 regenerates, there's a big emotional moment in there, while you're having big explosions and the 10 Doctors flying into Earth while shooting every missile on the planet. That I prefer. Or the Doctor saying, look, I'm protecting this town. This is what my life is going to be. I'm going to die old age because I know I got no generations left. I prefer that. But with this as just, if you just want to see the Doctor being a badass and shoot missiles out, just, stop the Wani, stop Omega, and then save the world and all kind of stuff, but he's probably going to sacrifice, something's going to happen. Because by 10 seconds, I knew, this is a generation episode. Because the moment we introduce characters from Joy to the World, immediately, I knew that, this is a generation episode. This is 100% a regeneration episode. And it just, it does feel like we're assembling everyone. And even though it feels like Ruby never got an ending, we had the series 1 ending, and Belinda got an ending at the end of this episode, but it doesn't feel like Ruby got an ending, so maybe Ruby will be back in future seasons and all that, and stuff like that. But when it comes to the plot of it and the details that we find out about the origin of bi-generation, the origin that generation is a way that Time Lords can repopulate and those type of things, because we find out that the Time Lords can't have kids. They can't, women can't get pregnant. Time Lords can't have children of their own. They repopulate. They just, this is the species, and by generations how the Time Lords move over and move, the Time Lords repopulate. And I thought that was quite interesting. And then I started thinking, what the fuck is Susan? In my head, the only thing I can think of with Susan is he calls her his granddaughter because that's what she has been. Maybe it's more of a symbolic thing than more like I treat you as my grandchild than actually being the Doctor's grandchild. Maybe it's a little bit of that. Maybe it's more of a, hey, we're stuck on Earth in 1963 in a gunter yard, and this is our story. Maybe that's how it happened. Because still, the Susan thing has been evolved, so I assume that's going to be evolved in future seasons. I assume any tiptoey and anything that's hasn't been resolved will be there for future seasons, unless there's a bit of a it doesn't matter situation. If that's the case, if you're going to end the show in a unresolved way and no bow ties getting, there's no bow ties getting, wrapped up in the box, it'll feel unsatisfied, because there's still unanswered questions. So, but I like the idea. Like, I kind of figured it out, right? Last week, that the Rani's plan is to bring back Gallifrey, and using Omega as a way to bring the Time Lords back. And Omega's Omega looking like this is a whole different, look, he looks very different from the classic series. He's just a guy with a massive, cone on a head, and look, I get it, you're trying to make this guy a massive threat and all that, and making him a big CGI monster. Yeah, it worked. It worked a little bit. I mean, I did found that it was a little bit too convenient. I found it a little bit too convenient with how the Doctor stopped Omega. I thought it was a little bit too quick. I thought it was a little bit too, convenient of how it was so easy to fix Omega. Then, of course, I found a way to have the end kill the Rani, but kept the Rani going with Mrs. Flood and all that. But as I said, and then, of course, the big, action sequence with 13 rushing towards the Rani ship, that was a neat little action sequence. See, as I said, spectacle-wise, it's pretty well put together. Just I would prefer previous Doctor Who episodes that it was about the ending of a Doctor better. Now, let's talk about the other 30 minutes. So, the 30 minutes happened, and I do like the idea of the Doctor regenerates, not from saving the world, saving a galaxy or whatever. It's by saving a person, and that's what it feels like RTD's regenerations are about. 9 saves Rose, and then he regenerates into 10. 10 saves Wilfred, and then he generates into 11. And for this case, 15 saves a child that was an assistant who was in reality, then not became in reality, and now and the Doctor needs to bring that child back into reality. That kind of makes a little... You understand what I'm saying here. And in a way, he's saving a child. And he's giving his life to save a child. And I thought that was... I kind of like that. He's sacrificing himself for a person versus the entire globe or entire galaxy or something. I get the idea of the grand sacrifice thing, but I think this was a more better way. Even though I kept looking at the time, not because I was bored, I was just a little bit concerned about how much time is left on the counter, and we're still having a scene with Doctor saying goodbye to Belinda that goes for 10 minutes, and I was like, Doctor, are you going to do regenerate and we're going to cut to black? What's going on here? What's going on? And then, but it's a great scene. I do enjoy. I will say this. I did enjoy the last 30 minutes. Of course, 13 showing up for, in a way, yes, it's a couple of things with 13 showing up, which is to, having a neat little nice cameo. But the second thing is, and have people understand that the Doctor can generate into a man or a woman, white, black, any ethnicity out there. Yes, there's that as well. But also, it kind of is a version of how do you do the big Doctor speech that happens in every generation, right? When the Doctor basically says everything's going to be alright. everything's going to be alright. And imagine if it's the doctor telling the doctor that everything's going to be fine. Everything, like, change is good, we're all the same. And the line that 13 says, I like it, is every face, all the faces change, we're still the same person. And that, I think, that will hit people who are new. That's going to hit people when they're new, who are new to the show. And so when 15 turns into 16, it probably feels a little bit more welcome. It feels a little bit more warmth. It feels like a little bit like, hey, you don't want this person to go, and saying, I will, go with a smile. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. That Billy Piper is now the 16th Doctor. Which is, of course, the knee-jerk response is, this is a bad idea, that this is just because of the waitings, and this is desperation, that it's blah, 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 you just did that for 14, but that was for the 6th year, so we accept you for the member berries, and all that kind of stuff. I get you. But, maybe the creative side of me, because I do write and edit and do crazy stuff, there's a part of me that's thinking there might have been a situation where, hey, it was always an agreement that Shuji was going to leave in Series 2, that this was going to be his final episode, and the idea of 16 and RTD's thinking what 16 would going to be. He has some time. They shot the 2 series back to back. So I had some time to think about who could be the new Doctor. And he's just thinking, Billy Piper hit those check marks. And who cares that she's Rose? Who cares that it's been 12 years, enough time has passed kind of mindset. And now she's a Doctor. And in the UK, I will say this, in the UK, if it's Secret Diary of Call Girl, take Doctor Who out of the equation. If it's Secret Diary of Call Girl, or Penny Dreadful, or Wear Beasts, or Serial Tiny Lights, or She's Gonna Be on Wednesday, Series 2 on Wednesday, or if it's I Hate Susie, which she has co-produced, has written and directed, with partnership with Beowulf Production, which is, of course, is linked to Doctor Who and all that. So, but I'm listing all these projects that she has done outside of Doctor Who, showing that she is a very respectable actor. She adds a level of prestige to the show, to people. It probably adds Doctor Who, having her in the show probably adds now credibility, that there's a name that and a face that people will link not just the show, but just to link the UK industry with. So, she's a really, really decent, solid actor, and I'm excited to see what she can bring to the role. And hopefully, maybe this is a way for them to say, we are rebooting the show again. And how you do it is bring the familiarity by having an actor playing, having a companion playing the character, playing the title character. So something that people, the member berries can come in. But then you completely ignore the member berries, so you ignore that she's Rose for a whole new audience. It's trivia. Treat that she was Rose by trivia. And so I'm at this point where I'm like, just wait and see. This is wait and see. And look, all I will say this is the writing needs to be fucking fantastic. It needs to be that spot on. Because if it's anything less than, say, if it's any 7 out of 10 episodes, people are going to be like, nah, this is just desolation. If it's 9, if it's, episodes need to be 8, 9, some 10 out of 10 episodes, it needs to be HBO level writing, for this to work. Because I do think as much, look, it's not just the BBC needs Doctor Who. it's also the TV. It's the UK TV industry needs Doctor Who. You know, just for people who have jobs. It's not many stuff is happening. You know, in the UK, for people who work in dramas to work. So Doctor Who fills those gaps for them, and a lot, and so in a way it needs it. So, but I will say this: it is the last war. I think if 16 doesn't work, because Doctor Who does has this kind of thing where if you're not connected with a doctor, don't worry, just wait a couple of years, and you wait a couple of years, and you just wait till the next person shows out. And maybe there's also that situation where they're like not connected 15, I'll wait till the next person. Because Doctor Who is a soap opera, let's be honest. So, yeah, I'm open to it. And also it's all about storylines. If they do mention Rose, that she's Rose, I mean, the concept of wearing the face of a person that you once loved, you know, maybe the origin is the TARDIS. You know, there was a show of the TARDIS when, the TARDIS interior, so maybe it's like, hey, wear a face of, the premiere, maybe. But, yeah. Anyway, comment below, let me know your thoughts.